I decided it was enough was enough
I
in
don't know
terms.
what you're talking about.
I'm sure. I know this is just for me. I want to meet someone who knows themselves and loves themselves. This was a game changer. I have attracted the most amazing, truly feminine woman. She leads with love.
Darren, this is very heartwarming. Darren, welcome to the Vibrant Couple into our Becoming a Better Man series.
Thank you for having me.
You seem to have done quite a bit of work to become a better man. Please give me some highlights.
I guess I'll start with I started a personal development journey when I was quite young. I was having my second child in my very early 20s and realized I really didn't know how to be a good dad. And I tried reading books. This is back before the internet was so available, uh, to do some research, but there wasn't enough for me. And so I thought, how about I work on myself to become better, a better human? And that led to not an obsession, but certainly it opened up a new sense of learning and hope for me as a human. And it did lead to me becoming a much better father. It led to me becoming an entrepreneur. And then later in life, I started to pass on that information and share with others. But it really started with me doing the work on myself.
So, how did you become a better father?
Mm. Well, like anything, I think once you have the intention, clarity of I want this thing, it was really came from I didn't have a great role model. I know that my father was doing the very best he could with what he had and what he knew, but I just didn't want that to be my legacy. I wanted to really be involved and be excited for my children and what they were up to, and also be a great role model for moving forward. And it became the main focus. I just saw these two little girls. It's like this is a good reason to go for it and to be more and to do more. And so while I was learning these tools on myself and practicing, it kept coming back to this point of I want to be the best father I can be. And then I look for evidence of that being true. And, things like going on the field trips with my young girls and being the only male there was one of the stark changes. And all these moms coming up and saying, "Oh, you're such a good father, you're such a good man." And I thought, wow, the bar is pretty low. All I got to do is show up for a field trip. And I started really looking around and seeing the the bar being so low for men, and I just didn't want that to be okay for me. I wanted to have higher standards than that. And so I
So,
set a plan together to become just keep improving as a father. So I might have been okay and then go for good, and then what is the next step? And I can tell you one of the driving factors was this idea of 9 letters on my tombstone, whenever that would be, hopefully years and years away, was it would just say a great dad. And so I use that as the driving force to keep going and keep growing.
my hunch is you did more than just showing up.
It's one of my favorite thoughts. Thank you for catching me there. Is to just, I believe once you get lined up, you get in alignment to where you're supposed to go, or, a bigger part of you, that good things happen. And so I did do a lot of work. That is true, but it didn't feel like work. And it was just like getting to know myself better. And then why do I do that? And is there another way? Is there a better way? And I start to research and look at what other people did. For instance, why do I immediately go to losing my temper, when things don't go my way? Is it really a 3-year old's? Is she really doing that to me? Is it really the traffic that's bothering me? And when I started to really start to question, what is it that's up for me? What is it that's reactive in me? That's when I could start to go, it's not this thing in front of me. It's usually something from the past that's bothering me. And I think what I learned there is as I grew and became this great dad is that it helped me in all areas of my life. Because I was becoming a better human, a better man.
You seem to have excellent listening skills. Was that part of the plan?
I did not come here with excellent listening skills. I was not trained in being a good listener. As a young man, as a boy, I was the oldest of four, two boys, two girls, and basically I was told to go, be loud, just make your way, lead, use power as an aggressive tool, and do what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and always do the right thing. And never was I taught about listening. And as I realized later, as I started to coach, it really, I think I became the best version of me when I started to be in alignment with what I was supposed to do, which was lead others, lead teams. And it started as small kids in sports and as an adult. And I realized I could talk a lot and they would do what I wanted them to do, but it didn't have long-term success. It didn't create long-term success. It created fear. It created this system where we might win some games, but we weren't improving as humans, as we weren't getting better. They weren't becoming better humans, better ball players at the time. And I started to realize I'm going to have to get to know these players, these humans, these athletes. And I started to ask better questions. And actually, it's one of my mantras is if you want better answers, ask better questions. And I became a better listener because I started asking interesting, thoughtful questions that I couldn't wait to hear what people had to say. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, now that I've asked this interesting question, I'm really interested. And I started taking myself out as the main character of everything I did and tried to make this person in front of me more interesting, more exciting, more engaged. And that I see that as a leadership role of asking really good questions.
I could have named this series Becoming a Better Person, but I intentionally named it Becoming a Better Man. And so
Mhm.
somehow from that young man that somehow didn't have good role models was taught to use aggression to the man I'm seeing a few years later. Um, what is it about growing your masculine and growing your feminine that makes you a better man?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Lots of possibilities. I think I was taught by my mother to really work on my feminine, be good to your sisters and take care of. Um, my father was more of a like power, like go get it, don't ask questions, take. I don't think either of them were pure masculine or feminine, but that was my version that I learned. And really, what I have learned is that I am a very masculine male. I have a lot of masculine energy, but I wasn't using it correctly. I wasn't using it in a way that was helping anyone. So I was very successful at sports as a young person because I was really aggressive and it was celebrated. And you're the man. You're the man because you ran that person over or you were really in somebody's face and you created chaos. It was very manly. And all of that worked right up until having kids and having two daughters. And I thought I don't want to show this side. It is part of me, but it's just a form that actually doesn't feel like me. It felt like I was had this energy and I didn't know what to do with it. So as I started to learn more about me, I started to learn more about, for me, better ways of using this masculine energy. And that was leading from authentic me. It was creating space for others to succeed, much like the service I was talking about. And what happened from there is I also realized I started to become a version of femininity that was also working, which was this idea of I was a better listener. I could caretake, but not in a I'm taking care of. I'm holding the space for you to come in and be yourself. And I realized I was sort of polarizing, but it was really starting to attract many, many people who were interested in what I was doing without honestly being on purpose about it. It just was one of the benefits of doing the work on myself.
So what I'm hearing is that you decided to become a better masculine by developing your feminine. Do you have some word of advice for the way too many men who somehow believe that the way to become better men is by toning down their masculinity?
Mhm. I think it's a very popular way of looking at it right now, especially if we listen to, what's out there in the TikTok world, I call it. I actually think stepping in to your masculinity is the answer. It's not living up to somebody else's expectations or what you think it is. But I think in the world of masculinity and femininity, to me, I just keep it simple. I believe the masculine has a big job to do, and that's creating safety, creating space for others to step in. And for me, that's actually what leadership is. It's this idea of being a better leader, masculine or feminine, just being a better leader is creating space for success. And for me, one of the things I do a lot of, I now coach young athletes. I've coached over 1,000 athletes, mostly female. Well, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", 220 pounds. And I speak with a deep voice. Is if I walked in and was like, okay, everybody, you listen to me and let's go, I would get a lot of repelled energy. And actually, what I do instead was I own who I am. I don't shrink down, but I'm very grounded and centered in what I want to do with tonight. My emotions aren't flying all over the place. They're very directive, and I'm very present with people. And most parents, when they first meet me, they have something like, I thought this was going to be terrible. I thought my daughter wouldn't react or wouldn't engage. But what I watched is them leaning in. And that makes me feel really great. And the reality is that I believe it's because I've stepped into my full masculine. I'm not trying to hide anything, but without trying to overpower. Because let I don't have to show people that, hey, look at me, I'm really masculine. I'm just masculine. And that I think creates a safety for people. There's no distrust built in of like, what is he doing? It doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right. It's generally, no, that's in alignment. And it's been working for many, many years of creating space for others' success and my own success.
We could have a wonderful conversation about business leadership and how you teach your clients. I would love to lead our conversation towards your couple, your relationship with
Mm.
women. And so
Mm.
please tell me about your partner and what is different now that you have done all that work, now that you're a basically mature man.
Yes, thank you. And I agree. I do think of myself now as a mature man. And where
Mhm.
it showed up finally was in relationship. And now I have attracted the most amazing, truly feminine woman who is perfect for me. And what I've realized is I didn't know I was looking for that. I didn't know I was wanting that. I was tending to attract more masculine, feminine, who liked my balance, I suppose. But as I've stepped more into my masculine, the person who showed up is a really wonderful woman who just wants to love and has so much kindness to give that it's almost a little overwhelming. Immature Darren would never have been able to deal with it. And I would say mature Darren is loving it. It's just like, whew, let's go. I can handle this. I have to have a few pep talks, but I love it. I love stepping into it.
Would you mind describing a few of her feminine ways?
Yes, love to. So she's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Her name is Kelly, and Kelly, what happens for her is she will just start with love. She'll talk about what she loves about me or what she loves about the world, and I'm so not used to that. I'm very much used to helping people who start with, oh, here's what's wrong, and this is why this won't work. So I generally try to help them see another way. And with Kelly, she just starts with love. She usually stays with love. And an example of that is when we're together, she'll do whatever it takes to make sure I have the best night's sleep. For an example, she's quiet, or she somehow suddenly there's coffee ready for me in the morning, and it's as a man who is raised with like don't expect anything from women and stop wielding power and making somebody do something and getting them into roles. What I realize is I've met somebody who knows themselves so well and has done the work on herself that this is who she is. She loves to bring the love. She leads with love. And it is such like a warm feeling that comes through my body just talking about her, thinking about how she shows up. And a big part of, what I can appreciate about her now, I don't think I would have even seen a few years ago as I was doing this work on myself. I was not seeing the feminine that as an attractive piece because I don't know how masculine I was really showing up as.
Some of it is cultural.
Yes.
Women
Yeah.
want to be in their masculine, which in many ways is wonderful, but
Yeah.
somehow I also think that they really suffer by not willing to be in their feminine when they are in a relationship.
Totally agree. The visual I have with Kelly and I is she's like a butterfly and she's beautiful and she's floating around. She's seeing all these things, and I'm like a rock. Like I've got things. Like we can do it. I got you. And sometimes she tries to, try to lift up the rock so I can see some things. And sometimes I try to bring her down to earth. But as a whole, when we just celebrate, how beautiful and how wonderful it is to be a butterfly, and she celebrates how amazing and strong it is to be the rock, is when we're at our best. I'm actually getting the tingles as I talk about it because I've never had the experience of actually doing this, of actually being the masculine and letting and encouraging her to be the feminine. And so we are creating this fairly a win-win relationship of us stepping into who we are meant to be.
Wonderful. So what I'm hearing is that you feel nurtured by being in your masculine. She feels nurtured by being in her feminine. The two of you somehow are creating a nurturing relationship, and you're not somehow trying to average each other and somehow show
Yeah.
up as a middle or show up as, half masculine, half feminine each.
Totally. I think a big part of that is that we talk about leadership. It's like there are certain things I want you to lead me on. And as we lay it out and look at it, it's mostly on the feminine. I want to know how to love more. I want to see a bigger picture around possibility and love. And with me, she wants the pragmatic side and the how do we figure this out? And we set each other up to lead because I don't want to lead on something that I am in my area of competence or area of weakness. I want to deal with someone in their zone of genius. And when we see each other that way, it really helps propel us to be our best versions of ourselves. And
Wonderful.
I'm noticing my smile as I talk about it. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
That's wonderful. So I'm making the assumption that both of you have done a lot of work to get there.
It's a good assumption. One of the things I decided after quite a few failed relationships is that I was going to look for someone who had done at least half their work. It was on my vision board. It was something that came out of my mouth, and some of my friends and coaches would be like, "I don't know what that means." I go, I'm setting that as a standard, at least half their work. And when I met Kelly and we started having these conversations, I'm very blessed. I get to work with people who've done work. But what I was actually saying, without knowing, is I want to meet someone who knows themselves and loves themselves. I think there's a few people out there who know themselves. I think there's a few people out there who love themselves. But when you can do both of those, it's magic. It's magic. I can just feel it around them. Like they have more grace, they have more possibilities and they have more room for others. and it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And she's really helped lead me in that category. I think I have become more graceful around my mistakes and my shortcomings, and I've noticed I am for others as well.
So what I'm hearing is that the two of you are creating a relationship in which you lead with your masculine and she leads with her feminine.
Totally. That is exactly what's happening. And for those who go, like,
Wonderful.
well, what do you do with the rest of it? It all works out. It all works out. There's no, we don't pause and go, well, I guess you take this, or maybe I take this. It just naturally flows with us being at our best selves, naturally. I have this incredible story that I just recently shared with some people about her. Is I thought I would do something cute, I think, something fun, and she was sleeping. I woke up and she was sleeping, and she had this really cute look on her face, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do this nice thing, and I'm gonna take a picture of her, and we're gonna have a good laugh about this picture, because she was sleeping like this with her eyes closed, and I pictured she was telling me to shh, take it easy. So I stuck my camera on my phone, and I took this picture, and unbeknownst to me, this big flash went off, and so here's this peaceful, restful love of my life who's trying to sleep, and she's woken up by this lightning storm, the paparazzi, and she was frustrated, immediately. She woke up to this, oh, and I just left kind of in shame. All my stuff came up, and I left, and I came back after brushing my teeth. I was like, ah, and she's like, you know what? I was thinking about it. I trust you, and I think you always have my best intentions in mind. So although I may not understand what's happening, I know you're not going to do anything to hurt me. And I just want you to know I love you. And I just was like, wow, wow. How lucky and how
Wow.
beautiful is this, that someone sees me and always assumes I'm doing the best, and I'm never going to hurt, and I'm here to help. And even though she doesn't understand, she gives me that kind of grace. It was one of the most beautiful experiences I had.
Wow. And so one of the things that men typically don't understand about women is how much women worry. And so it seems that you do a really good with her at somehow being the rock that calms her. And it looks like most women don't understand how much men are in fear of women, fear of always making mistakes, and that she does a really good job at calming these fears in you.
Amazing, because in that moment I felt like I was about 5 years old, and I'd really let somebody down, and the shame and the guilt was coming, and all the work that I've done was, oh, I was drowning in it. But to have someone say, "Hey, I got you," and you're not a bad person. Sometimes you do things that don't make sense. And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. But to have the space, to me, that's again creating space for total success. So I said, thank you for leading us here. Thank you.
Darren, this is very heartwarming. Thank you. There are both men and women listening. There are people who are single, there are people who are in a couple. So I'm pretty sure the singles got the memo that they need to do some work on themselves
Do the work.
and develop
Yeah.
their masculine and their feminine and somehow discover what works for them, what nourishes them. So I have a question specifically for the ones who are in a couple right now and they basically aspire to become a basically new couple operating system to get to the next level. Do you have any advice for this couple on what they can do to somehow lower reactivity so they can access these basically higher level operating system?
I tend to not give advice, but I certainly would like people to look at what
Well,
is
I'm
it you want to
asking for
create.
it.
You want it. Okay. I gotta go to my old brain, and say, well, here's what I would say. Men, if you were more vulnerable in your masculinity, I believe we would solve a lot of problems. Women, if you were more vulnerable, in your masculinity, I believe we would solve a lot of problems. Women, if you were more vulnerable, in your masculinity, I believe we would solve a lot of problems. Women, if you were more vulnerable, in your masculinity, I believe we would solve a lot of problems. Women, if you were more vulnerable, in your femininity, I believe we would solve a lot of problems. And for those who are like, well, I don't know exactly how, I'm not saying it's a snap quick fix. I'm saying it's a worthy goal. It's a worthy pursuit to really step more into that. And what's being sold out there is this idea that you got to be everything. You've got, hey, men, you got to be more feminine. Hey, women, you got to be more masculine. I actually don't believe that to be true. And what happened for me when I started looking at relationships that really worked, that really, really worked, I started to see a pattern that I couldn't deny. And it's very much what I'm talking about, what I believe you talk a lot about, Waldo, is really us stepping back into who we are supposed to be, who we are meant to be. And that is so attractive to the other side. That whole, hey, we have to work on this and we're gonna fight for this. I'm like, actually that tends to go away. And it's just like it's not work and it's not fight to be really attracted to this person that at least at one point you were very attracted to, and they were attracted to that real part of you, not this wishy-washy part of you.
So what I'm hearing is basically work on the polarity, but work on it because it serves both of you.
That will naturally bring more attraction back into the relationship, which is usually starting to wane as we try to be more wishy-washy, more in the middle. I'll be a little of this and a little of that. It's actually to step right in and say, yes, this is me. Remember me. And this is me. Remember me. And watch the sparks fly from there.
I'm fully in line with you. And actually, I'm somehow building my business around basically increasing that polarity. And so
Yes.
there is one thing that I would love to bring out to our
Mm,
conversation. When you and I prepped our call, there is something that I heard you say that I really loved and I think could be very valuable to the way too many couples that argue way too much because they stay in reactivity. And
yeah.
so you know what I'm talking about.
I do, and I'm excited to share with you. Um, one of the things I finally, for me, it was I had enough. I had enough of my insecurities getting in the way, and then the reaction to my insecurities bringing up their insecurities, and so I decided it was enough was enough, and I started to create my own manual. So it's like an operating manual. Say like this is Darren, and it's written in 5 different languages, but really here's the one you need, which is when I am insecure, I tend to do this. When I am defensive, I do this. When I feel abandoned, I do this. And I've known myself. I know I do these things that I need you to not take this personally in the moment because it's not about you. It's that the 5-year-old Darren feels abandoned or the 9-year-old Darren feels not smart enough. But in this moment, I can't tell the difference. And what I need is somebody who says, it's okay. It's okay. What I tended to get was people going, oh, great. Now this, and this is what this means. And now we got to fight. I didn't want to fight. I'm just insecure. And I've been on the other side of it when somebody's insecurity got rubbed and now they're putting it on me. And if I'm not in the right space and I'm in my own stuff, and now we got two people out of
I don't know
control.
what you're talking about.
I'm sure. I know this is just for me.
I read that
So
in
pretend
books.
we can all pretend that maybe you don't know what I'm saying, but imagine having the vulnerability to just hand somebody this book, this page. And for with Kelly, she was the first person I ever did it with. I said, I want you to know this about me. And it was really vulnerable at the moment. I think of it now as like, I should have done this years ago. This was a game changer. This idea of me handing my manual to someone saying, this is what I do. And here's how you can support me. Please don't add fire to an already exploding, situation. Instead, I need space. I need time. You can ask me some questions, please, but don't you jump in the hole with me. Don't come into the fire with me. And she, in return, also did her own manual. Of course, she'd never heard of it, but I just asked, hey, where are your insecurities? What do you tend to do when those stories come up? And how can I support you in that? And it was actually true that early on that every once in a while we'd have to pull out the manual and say, okay, uh, so do you need some space? And it was awkward at first, but now, we're 2.5 years into this relationship now. I'd say I don't know where her manual is. We don't go back to it all the time. I think it was the original step that told me this is the kind of person I can learn and grow and get to know. And now I just know when she goes there, I know what to do. When I go there, she knows what to do. And we have yet to have that fight where we keep adding. We just let the person do its thing. We support it from afar sometimes, and then we can pick it back up. What I notice with a lot of couples is they start to spiral, and the other person, they start to spiral, and now we got chaos. And then we try to figure out what happened, and it's often like, let's not talk about it. Yeah, it's happened 100 times before. Let's just keep moving on. To me, that's not the way I want to do it. I want to know, hey, I got your back, you got my back, and we're not perfect. And I think that's what the manual really showed is like, I love you, I trust you. Can you help me with this? And she said the same thing. And I thought, we're really onto something here.
Seems that you've done a wonderful job at learning to turn towards each other.
Yes.
Wonderful. Darren, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And please thank Kelly for helping you becoming a better man. If this conversation I just had with Darren inspired you to become a better man or a better woman, please hit the like button below and subscribe so you can be notified when I publish new juicy content. And please share with all you believe would benefit. I look forward to seeing you very soon.